What's up?
Hold on. I'm trying to hop in on a restream, and I'm accidentally signed in as TEF. So hold on. Just switch it.
Naughty.
Jason, if you had a home base, where would it be?
So we're in Birmingham now. Technically, if you know Birmingham, we're in Hoover, Alabama, which is just south of Birmingham.
Hoover.
And we're looking right now. Anywhere within 15 minutes of the spot I'm in right now would be great.
That's your home base. Okay.
Yeah, this is where we don't have one at all, and we've been doing this nomadic thing for 2 years. And my co-founder in Boulder Athlete is down here. A group of investors just bought a gym, an existing gym that's 7 minutes from where I'm at. And I have it. I mean, day one, I walked in and like, Jason, here's your key. It's yours. Whatever you want, whenever you want,
Nice.
Within reason. And so the balance between searching for the house is I want as close to the gym as possible, and my wife wants as much acreage as possible.
Yes.
So we're going to be pushing and shoving for a little bit here.
Battle. Yeah, God bless you, sir. I've had that battle as well. So
make it a nice couple K run to the gym so you can use it as warm up.
Yeah. There you go.
All right,
Birmingham. It's very mountainous here. It's very hilly.
Yeah,
there is not a flat spot here. So if I ride a bike, like I'm just looking at riding a bike to the gym, I'm like, God, no way. I'll be too tired.
Damn.
Too big of a warm up.
All right. Well, I'll do an official intro here. We'll get going. 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland alongside Tommy Marquez. We got a packed house. We got Lauren Khalil, as always. And we have joining us today, Tom Miazga. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, guys.
Adaptive athlete, CrossFit Games champion. And we have another CrossFit Games champion. So we all get to feel very unfit in these people's presence. That's Jason Grubb. How you doing, man?
I'm great, Sean.
I really appreciate you guys stopping by. We're going to talk about all the news that just came out. We had a brief discussion about it on Tuesday, but we wanted to bring you guys on to actually get perspective of athletes who are going to be involved in this, something we didn't have earlier in the week. But before we do that, I want to thank our sponsor for today, and that is Airwaav. Airwaav is a performance mouthpiece that has been scientifically proven through peer-reviewed published research to increase endurance and airflow, increase strength and muscular endurance, and improve faster recovery times. What the Airwaav mouthpiece does that sets it apart, it's a patented bottom-fit design mouthpiece, meaning that you mold it to your bottom teeth, not like a mouth guard you might wear in a contact sport where you have to put it on the upper part of your mouth. It directs your tongue down and forward, and then when you gently bite down, it creates an optimal airway opening. And here are the numbers that back that up. I use this thing all the time, and I absolutely love it. Use of the mouthpiece in test subjects found an 8% increase in the diameter of the throat and a 9% increase in the width. There was also a 51% reduction in cortisol 1 hour after high-intensity exercise. Helps you with recovery. And when used during a steady state run, the Airwaav mouthpiece resulted in a 28.5% reduction in respiratory rate compared to before the mouthpiece was put in. And they have a bunch of different models. They actually have one that's a Mitchell Hooper model.
Yep.
That's for like strongman lifting. They have an endurance model.
I used the endurance yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
I'm working on getting my mile time back down. I'm trying to go sub 5 again. So that's the goal.
I couldn't go sub 5 with a jetpack and roller skates strapped in there. I'm hoping good on you.
I'm hoping the body remembers. I used to have a sub 5, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, you can go to airwaav.com. That's AIRWAAV.com. Use the code TEF15 for 15% off. Listen, we're in October. Holidays are coming up. Great stocking stuffer. Take care of it now. TEF15, and enjoy better breathing and a better fitness overall. And for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm going to pop the QR code up in the upper left-hand part of the screen. So if you guys want to check out Airwaav, all you got to do is just scan that QR code. That's right by.
Just give a little scan.
Right by my melon.
It won't hurt you.
All right. Well, let's get into this. This was Jason. We've had you on before. And, this was one of the worst kept secrets out there, is that the Masters Championship was going to spin off to the Legends. We were just waiting for the official announcement. I don't think the wheel watch stuff was as prevalent in the space as far as a rumor as the Legends things was. But I just wanted to start by just getting your guys' initial reaction to the news, and we'll start with Tom because you showed up first.
Hey-o. I was excited, and it was that simple. I mean, even before I could digest much more other than seeing the CrossFit post and reading the Instagram and reading the caption, I was just like, great. this is good. You know, I could see where some individuals may see this as like on a very superficial level. It's like CrossFit's just handing this off because they don't want to deal with it. And, you know, they never really cared about adaptive. I don't think that's the case at all. I think we see both of these opportunities and the teams for that matter as a really good opportunity to highlight all of these different divisions in a way that makes sense and can be done to its full capacity. I won't lie that, like, you know, initially I was part of the land of misfit toys and the 5 divisions that never got to really see the games floor with, you know, within Madison or now potentially Fort Worth. But on the other end of it, it's like, I know we're going into a situation where all of the resources that we need are being done and taken care of by a group of individuals who have been doing this for so long and nothing but, right? The Airwaav Games have been something that I've been really proud to be a part of. And it was my first falling in love with CrossFit was through the Airwaav organization. And that's how I got my start and got more and more involved in CrossFit. And so they've always been the grassroots, the staple and everything as far as adaptive divisions have been concerned. I think even when you look at the CrossFit building the adaptive divisions and adding the leaderboard in 21, it was using what foundations Airwaav had already produced and using those as a resource to move forward. So, you know, on a very simple level right now, I'm really excited about it. I think it's really great to know that every Airwaav competition that I'm excited and feel compelled to go to is now sanctioned by CrossFit, and that there's that bigger level of support across the board for it. I think it's a tremendous move forward for the sport.
Jason, what about you?
Wow, ditto that. Honestly, ditto that answer. You know, I was in the group, and when we were on the show last time, we knew the rumors. And I think we were still in that frustration phase of like, we still don't know, although we know the rumors and there's a lot of concerns. And is CrossFit really just, offloading all of this stuff? It felt like more of an offload because there wasn't anything out there, right? There wasn't any conversation. And once the announcement was there, the initial frustration was nothing new here. We know all this. Now we can just share our questions. But in the past couple of days, as my thought process has gone on, and you know, honestly, I've talked with Bob Jennings, who runs the Legends Championship. So there's some things that I can't share about that, but I'm greatly encouraged. Seeing Dave talk about it in his live Q&A that he does on YouTube, I was encouraged with some of the phrasing, you know, just the expansion of the season, the expansion of what's offered for age group adaptive and age group adaptive athletes. My internal thought process has shifted. I see a huge opportunity in 2024 with this change and knowing the pathway to get to the games as well. Whatever they're going to call it, I am curious about that. But we do the open, we do quarterfinals, we do semifinals. Our path there is the same. We're going to have a larger field, which is always great. It gives people the opportunity to do what they've dreamed of doing, qualify for and compete on the floor at the CrossFit Games. It will be our own unique version of the CrossFit Games, an in-person competition, its own date that is not in Fort Worth. All of that is totally fine. And as I'm optimistic. I'm excited. And I think it's up to, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but now it's up to us. The announcement is out there. Nothing's changing, right? This is it. Now it's up to us as athletes, consumers of this sport, to make this amazing, right? Let's go. Let's do that. It's in great hands. I think that's the other thing I would say, that Legends Championship, I've competed there the past 3 years, and I know these guys. I know how they run these. They made a huge competition happen during COVID in 2021 in Arizona, in a parking lot outdoors where the whole world was shut down. You couldn't do anything, and they pulled this off. That was amazing. And then since then, I've just been able to see how they can take a competition like that, where there is nothing easy about that, and make it. San Diego was huge. Sean, you were there. It was an amazing.
Oh, it was great. Yeah.
Here at Mayhem, it was. They know how to do it. They know how to make it feel like an elite premier fitness experience, an elite competition. And with the CrossFit Games partnering with them, or whatever they're going to call it, I think that injection of what CrossFit can bring to it is only going to be even better than any previous year that we've had. So I'm honestly very optimistic and excited for what 2024 has in store for us.
And kind of touching off that real quick, I wrote in our newsletter this morning, and it's something that I've kind of put out there consistently over time, is that one of the biggest dictators of how much this grows is people's support of it, right? Like showing up where it counts, whether it's consuming media, supporting sponsors, supporting athletes, buying tickets, going to these events in person. And that has been a challenge that I've consistently tried to throw out there. And it seems like it's as important as ever now that it's in the hands of organizers that aren't CrossFit, and those adaptive and age groups can take more ownership of it. Jason, I know you've competed at, Masters Fitness Championship, at Legends. You've been as active as anyone, in the sport, especially being at the forefront of it for your divisions. Do you feel like the appetite's there, or that the community is there and ready to kind of take that challenge, or is it going to take some time?
Oh, wow. So that's a yes and both.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take, I think it will take time, but I think there's already momentum. I think that's what's positive, is there's already momentum. There's already people that I know came to the games to watch me, which is awesome. It's such an honor, but I know that there were trips made to Madison, the middle of nowhere, not an easy place to get to specifically watch me compete. So that's awesome. Seeing that at the games, seeing it at the MFC as well. This is the momentum is there. And now, again, I think as soon as we know the dates of when the Masters CrossFit Games will be, or any of the age group adaptive competitions will be in person, that's the time. As soon as we know those calendars, we get our family, our friends, our fans, like, guys, book this date, get your butts to this location. If you can get out there to watch me, it'd be such a huge thing. But now it's on us to, kind of self-promote, come and watch, come see us in person. If you can't, and if there's some way to watch it online, tune in. And now it's on us to just broadcast that. We can be echoes of that broadcast out there. Take the momentum that we already have and just keep going. And I know that for me, as I broadcast to my followers, I have a large following in a niche sport, in a niche age group. So I'll just say that I know where that is, but I'll be a huge voice in that. Like, let's do this and come out here and support these athletes, because there's some amazing stories to be told behind the scenes for all of us athletes, and in person. What we can actually do in person is pretty special, pretty magnificent. So we'll create good footage. We'll create great videos. Come on out. I promise we'll show some good stuff out there. We'll make some good races happen.
For sure.
Tom, one of the things that Jason mentioned was how he's excited that CrossFit will still be providing a similar season structure with the open and quarterfinals. With the adaptive division, that's actually not the case. And what I've seen online over the past couple of days as people digest the news is that they feel like it's one more thing that the adaptive division cannot be a part of when it comes to the community, like the open. I'm curious what your take is on it, having the folks that are doing wheel wad actually programming your own season from start to finish.
Yeah, it's a good thought. I personally come from the perspective, though, that I guess I've been involved with wheel wad since, I started CrossFit. So it's nothing new to me. And so I can see maybe where if you were only doing CrossFit and now you have to switch to a wheel wad perspective, that could look a little bit odd. But I would assume at this point, I don't have all the details myself either. I would assume that wheel wad will program an open very similar, if not the same time as the CrossFit Games Open. I think the caveat here is that we're putting the leaderboard in the hands of the individuals that have, again, only been dealing with adaptive athletes their entire career, right? We're not leaving this to, 2 or 3 bodies that make up the adaptive division within the CrossFit sphere. And then they're relaying this information to a whole bunch of people that don't have any, background knowledge or history within the adaptive division to say, like, yeah, these are how the scores should look, and this is how these divisions should play out. I think there's still a great opportunity for a community feel, because I would hope and I would assume that the open will be around the same time, if not the exact same windows, where adaptive athletes can still throw down on Friday night lights with their able-bodied counterparts, and they can be a part of their community. We've had a great opportunity with our semifinals. I just don't think And I think realistically, if you look at it, we're probably not at a sphere yet where we have enough athletes to warrant a quarterfinal at this point, where a semifinal makes the most sense. And maybe in a few years, we can actually see, now that we have some foundations built and that we have a streamlined plan for how the adaptive divisions will fall, that maybe we end up going to a live semifinal. That would be fantastic. That would be really, really cool. Again, we just need to probably, again, digest this for a year and let this kind of run through and learn some more information about it. But I think the biggest thing that is most monumental for anybody that's a part of the adaptive division is we've kind of unfortunately had this dichotomy growing between WheelWOD and CrossFit Adaptive, right? There's WheelWOD's been around for a very long time. They've been, we just had our 10th games this past season, and CrossFit is in what would have been year 4 this season as we go into the adaptive side. And I think there was a lot of issues of people feeling like, no, I'm only going to commit to WheelWOD, or no, I'm only going to commit to CrossFit. And it's just hard where you start, you see in this struggle between, CrossFit's not including me because my division isn't going to the games. And so I'm only going to do WheelWOD, or vice versa, where like CrossFit is the thing that everybody watches and everybody wants to go be a part of CrossFit. And like WheelWOD's just there, like I can maybe make it big if I go on the CrossFit side. And so I think we're finally in a position where we can bring those together. And I feel like there's cohesion where the people that feel confident in the board, or I guess the members of that make up WheelWOD and who put on the programming, are going to be sound in making sure that everyone feels they have an equitable opportunity to compete. We're looking at crowning 15 different divisions of adaptive athletes in 2024. That's massive, right? I mean, there have always been many divisions, and they've created more to ensure that every athlete feels like they have a spot and they're competing against relative like disabilities. So that alone says that, we have the system, we know how this works, we have the fluidity to make this process happen for everybody. But now it's all sanctioned by CrossFit. So everybody gets that branding and that opportunity and that excitement that maybe they only saw because they watched the games in Madison, or they saw it online on YouTube or something. So now hopefully if we can bring those two together, I'd like to believe that this is the best of both worlds, right? You're getting the programming and the solidification that you're in the correct class and there's no disparity about disabilities and everyone's getting an opportunity. And hopefully now we have this mecca of a playoff season happening where there's 4 different weeks of games in Fort Worth. And then, hey, everybody gets to watch the teens, and hey, everybody gets to watch masters, and everybody gets to watch adaptive. And then it's just, we all just get to be a CrossFit junkie for a period of the summer where we're just watching competition after competition. And I mean, what's wrong with that?
That.
Right?
Yeah, we'll do that anyways.
I'm all for that. Makes our jobs easy.
Yeah.
One of the big questions that people have about this is the level of support that is going to be given from CrossFit to these divisions throughout the season. I obviously don't know what that's going to be, but from your standpoints, what would that ideally look like? And Jason, we can start with you.
Yeah, I think that CrossFit support would look like some dollars. So some investment of dollars into that. Dave on his live stream or his Q&A, he mentioned that the CrossFit Games team is a very small team, right? It's a very small team managing this huge thing. And that's that's by choice. I mean, they could hire more people. You could do that, or what they've chosen to do is partner with the best in the business in each individual category. So I think what those organizations need is that they need some capital or some additional capital. They're always bootstrapping this stuff and leaning into sponsors, which we need sponsors as well. So we need that outside community to come in. As masters, we'll spend the money. Like we're good eyeballs. Like we're valuable eyeballs. We spend money. But CrossFit, we'd love to see some dollars from CrossFit go to supporting that. Also, a very well thought out promotion strategy, right? So that these events are not afterthoughts. This is a season of competition, and that could be really cool if they position it that way and they use their existing resources, their media resources, to help promote the competition season, which includes adaptive, teens, masters, and elites and teams. All of those categories be supported that way. I think that would be what we're looking for. And I mean, we certainly want to know, who's programming these things? So who can we blame for the shuttle runs? Is it Bosman? Is it you? Do I need to send you DM? Who am I to send complaints to if there's more shuttle runs ever? But no, I mean, those are fun things. The more transparency that they can provide, the better. Like what's going on behind the scenes. We love that stuff as a community. So those are some of my thoughts. Dollars and some organized media attention around that.
Yeah.
I definitely would echo that. I think even in its sense in itself, the fact that CrossFit has already gone out of its way to highlight the adaptive now division separately on its own. And it's, these athletes are competing and these are the athletes we are going to watch. And we don't have to have any other people involved. Like there are no, Tia Tumis on the floor at the same time, but they're over on North Field while the adaptive athletes are in the Coliseum. You don't have to pick and choose anymore. Like adaptive has its own specific limelight, which in itself is a new first. That's exciting. It's always been there with WheelWOD and it's been great, but your able-bodied CrossFit goer isn't typically Google searching WheelWOD and looking to find some CrossFit that way. So now there's a public avenue that everybody has an access to, which is great. And I think, again, the same thing, if we can find a level of media that makes sense and equitable for every competition that's out there, adaptive, teens, masters, Fort Worth, the able-bodied games, it's everything there, I think would be ideal because again, it's just another level of opportunity for us to kind of bring back that community feel that maybe people feel have been lost now because the games are only focusing on teams and elite individuals, right? If we have this network to say like, nope, we are fully committed to making sure that the broadcast from Fort Worth all the way till our last week when we're hitting teens, like is the exact same kind of broadcast. We have commentary, we have, sponsorships, whatever it may be. I think that's huge. And I think personally, I've always believed in this. I mean, I'm biased, right? But I think there's a huge market that's available for a lot of major sponsors to really tap into the adaptive world. I think it's a population that is sorely underlooked when it comes to functional fitness and just promoting wellness in life. And I think CrossFit being a, sport or let's say organization or fitness culture for everybody, really should have those sponsors tapping into that adaptive community to say, like, we support you. We want to make sure you understand that fitness is functional for everybody. And so supporting at this level, at the games level for adaptive athletes only says a huge statement of, the commitment you're willing to make. So I think, I'm echoing Jason all the way. I think anything we can get would be a huge step forward.
Yeah. And you guys both touched on, aspects of what I think is CrossFit's most valuable asset internally, but also one of their most valuable assets, but also what's most valuable to, their partners now in WheelWOD and Legends. That's their platform, right? Yeah. CrossFit has a platform that trumps everyone else. Whether or not they leverage it to the fullest ability is a big question. And it's been hit or miss from time to time. But, if you're going to partner with these events, the one thing that you can do, like you said, dollars and cents in media, but is a thoughtful and timely promotion strategy that makes it feel like it's this cohesive season. And I'm, hopeful that maybe they can do it. They've, like I said, they've been hit or miss in the past, but it would be great to be able to leverage that because that would make it feel like a true partnership, right? Yeah. These events the organizations are taking this competition and that heavy lift for a live competition off your plate. Hey, let's promote it. Let's leverage this, millions of followers on social media, on YouTube and things like that, and echo it to make it more beneficial. Because it honestly, like posting a video or posting a live stream, doesn't cost a lot of money in the grand scheme of things relative to trying to put on the live stream on the competition's end.
Right. Yeah. The other thing, Tommy, I think that you sort of hit on there was like, so CrossFit is a little bit hit or miss on some of that communication historically or the promotion, but now they've partnered with organizations that have done a great job promoting on their own. Mm-hmm. And so again, I think those organizations can help promote that conversation with CrossFit. If they're partnering, there could be some voices back and forth there around this idea as well, that these are organizations that have self-promoted just fine on their own. Maybe they can help. I'm not saying they're going to coach CrossFit on how to do their job. That's not happening. Yeah. We get that. But in collaboration, this is what we've seen work. I don't know. But there's some additional voices in the room to hopefully help craft that.
Yeah, and that helps transparency, right? Because I think the question is like, all right, well, masters are a part of the open. Well, what do Legends get a cut of that? You know,
Right.
what about sponsors? What is allowable from a sponsor's perspective if you're still a part of the CrossFit season? Can I just go out and, you know, fish for any sponsors that I want? Do I have to take game sponsors? Does that mean we get a cut? I think having those outside organizations, not necessarily acting as watchdogs, but being able to push that envelope back a little bit, hopefully brings out the transparency. I'm not asking for every single detail, but just understanding a little bit of structure would be certainly helpful for sure.
Yes.
How much weight goes into the emotions of all of this, of whether each of you will be called a CrossFit Games athlete or not? Because at this point, we don't know. And I don't know, like, how much weight of putting that in your Instagram bio and being on the CrossFit Games leaderboard is that?
That's interesting. That's a very interesting thought. I think initially too, as I know that many of the wheel wad, you know, as we go through our season, like any wheel wad event that I would go to now, and knowing that has a CrossFit sanction, already in a sense maybe gives it a little bit boast of professionalism, right? I mean, there's that cool level of authenticity that, like, hey, this is, you know, trademarked, and that, you know, this is an elite competition that maybe a lot of people can now tune into and watch more prevalently than they were able to in the past. That's a really interesting thought. I don't know if, you know, I've always been proud to call myself a wheel wad athlete because of the quality of the work and the competitions that have been put together and the games seasons that we've had. You know, I mean, if you haven't seen a wheel wad games yet, I mean, last year we had 13 events across 4 days. I mean, it was still the same gauntlet. I didn't want to move for a week afterwards. I was served a silver platter. Like, there's no doubt. Like, it's not any sort of handout by any means, and it's not anything to bat an eye at. So, you know, knowing that we're training under legitimacy, that, like, have always seen ourselves as a professional athlete. And now that we have the chance to have that branding put upon us with the CrossFit, you know, support, I think it'd be fantastic. I don't know if a lot of wheel wad or adaptive athletes at this point call themselves a CrossFit athletes, a games athletes. You know, they are very much a CrossFit athlete. And I think that's always been the stream of conscious because, well, you know, not every division is fully at the games, and some of us are competing online. And, you know, I'm optimistic to believe that there was always a chance that all 8 divisions were going to make it to the floor at some point. But again, I think this is the best way for us to be able to have that opportunity. So would it be cool? Yeah. Would I be completely distraught if it didn't happen? No, because I think I know internally, and I think most wheel wad athletes know themselves that they are, you know, a CrossFit Games athlete because they're competing at the wheel wad games. And that has always been shown a level of superiority within our adaptive realm. And I think people would continue to see that no matter who's supporting it.
That's a really good segue into this question that Joe put in the comments. Showed up late, didn't know if it was covered, but it wasn't. But what about income potential with this shift? I know it's not like we're rich, you know, I could just quit my job. Yeah, that's not what it's going to be. But this was brought up on
I do
Death
also
By
want
as
to
well.
know Jason's response.
Yeah, I mean,
I
this
want to
was
know
brought
how
up.
he feels about
Yeah.
a Legends champion versus a Games champion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun on that one, but so let's get Jason's answer on that, and then we'll get to Joe's question. All right. So let's just a preview. I'm sorry.
All right.
But yeah, Jason.
Lauren, I have some thoughts. Of course, I have some thoughts on that. A little emotions on that. You know, I'm sure you saw that on. I made a comment on the CrossFit post about the announcement. Like, it was really more about our identity. Okay, so what are we now? Are we Games champions or are we Legends champions? Because I've got 7 of those wins. So I'll just whatever. 7-time whatever. It doesn't matter. It's, yeah, just right, Tommy. Just like I'll just lump them all together. Whatever.
Going Sizzler.
The most decorated. No. But it did come down to. Are we Games athletes? And I did get in a heated discussion with another individual aged Games athlete in the comments section there. And I didn't mean to get into it. And I was like, is this worth it? Yeah, I'm going for it. And going for the jugular, because what is the identity of a Games athlete? What makes a Games athlete? Is it their age? Is it their age group between 18 and 35? Is that a Games athlete? Or is our 17, 14 to 17 year olds, are those Games athletes if they qualify through quarterfinals semifinals get to the games and they compete on the floor at the CrossFit. Are they games athletes? Are team athletes games athletes? Are 35 plus athletes games athletes? And my argument is that if you go through the qualifying process and you qualify and you step foot on the field, you're a games athlete. And it is an identity thing. And I think there's something for me, and this is my unique perspective. When I qualified for the games in 2018 for the first time, I got the email, I celebrated internally like crazy. Like, that is the best email, probably the best email I've ever gotten. Like, you have successfully qualified for the CrossFit Games. Here's your invite. The next day in training, my mindset was like, well, I'm a games athlete. I have to train like a games athlete. And if those of you that know my story, like, I quit chewing tobacco that week because a games athlete doesn't chew tobacco. Like, it became an identity shift just being a games athlete. Now, maybe that was premature because I hadn't stepped onto the competition floor, but there was something there. And I think that the best outcome for all of this is that I'm going to compete next year, ideally, if I qualify, in the 2024 CrossFit Games or Masters CrossFit Games presented by Legends Championship or something like that. If the co-branding is such that I'm competing at the Masters CrossFit Games, I'm a games athlete. And again, if CrossFit is partnered with these organizations and there's really an ownership of that identity, and I think if we qualify and compete at any one of these three competitions as adaptive or age group athletes, I think it's fair to translate we're games athletes. We earned our spot, we earned our title, and yes, I'm not Matt Frazier, I'm not Rich Froning, but I also will say this. I hung around a lot with Rich Froning last year, and he never mentioned me when he introduced me to someone else as a Masters athlete. He's like, this is Grubb, games athletes, won a bunch of times. And that's just off the cuff, and at the CrossFit Games a couple years ago, I was wearing the white shirt, and I asked Tia if I could get a picture with her. I was like, hey, congratulations. Can I get us up? She's like, congratulations to you. I try to use her accent. It's terrible.
Yeah, needs work. It's all right.
That wasn't an honest effort.
The
okay.
enthusiasm was there, though. Yeah.
But her enthusiasm was through the roof. She was so kind. So like, yes, of course, it's so that's, I think those athletes at the highest level, I don't think that those guys are offended if we are called games athletes and we are designated as Masters champions or adaptive champion or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts. And Lauren, that was good. I got emotional. I got heated in some comments.
Well, I didn't mean to cut Sean off with this question, but I just knew that. I knew you had to take
it. happens.
Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned the co-branding. When I think of that, it immediately comes to mind. I don't know if you're football fans, but college football, the way they did the playoff, right? So ultimately they had to pick part of what were called the New Year's Six, not the New Year's Six, but the BCS bowls. And some of them there was a struggle, right? Because if the Rose Bowl is included in the playoff, they still want to be the Rose Bowl, right? They just don't want to be semifinal playoff number one. And I think they came to a healthy medium, which is essentially what you're promoting, right? Like, we want our identity as the event, but it's a part of something that's also much bigger that gives us an identifier as well. And I think, going to the Legends Championship, that's part of the CrossFit Games Championship Series, that makes you a games athlete. I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, co-branding is the way to go. Legends CrossFit Games, Wheelwad CrossFit Games.
Love that.
The pit team throwdown CrossFit, something like that. But I think that's absolutely the way to go. So let's get to that question that I mentioned from Joe about just do you view this as maybe even an increased potential for Masters adaptive athletes, and you can't include teens? I guess you could almost include teens, but to maybe put a little more money in their pockets through sponsorship or anything like that?
Cross your fingers, right? I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's any professional athlete's dream at this point, right? And any, being in our position in the Wheelwad system, there's been purse involved with winning the Wheelwad Games, and even with winning the CrossFit Games, there's been a purse there. But obviously, you can see the disparity between winning first place in the adaptive divisions versus winning first place in the elite divisions, right? I think the adaptive situation is a little bit hairier than maybe the Masters division may be, because I think we're still in I don't want to say, I guess, a stereotype where maybe an adaptive athlete isn't looked as prolifically as most able-bodied athletes are, right? And I think that's an honest thing that most people would agree with, even from myself as a standpoint. Like, I don't think most people understand well enough how an adaptive athlete may train or how rigorously they may be training. You know, even in my Paralympic swimming days, I was swimming 12, 13 times a week. I was literally living in the water. And it was, you know, it was just like, oh, you know, people still wanting to help me get out of the pool, or, you know, and just not quite seeing the athlete. They always kind of see the disability first. And so there's probably still some momentum shift that needs to be in that understanding about what a adaptive athlete looks like. And I think, you know, again, promoting the games in its own limelight and having the opportunity to showcase the adaptive divisions in their own stage, and hopefully, you know, broadcast that across the world to anybody and everybody that wants to tune in, that can help shift that dichotomy to say, oh, you know what, these athletes are pretty legit. Actually, I should try clean and jerking 170 pounds without my feet. You know, I should see if I can do that seated and make it work, you know? So, yeah, there's a hope and a promise. But again, I think if we can selfishly, would I love it? Yes, that'd be great. I'd love to be able to quit everything and just work out every day and not have to worry about anything else, and just, you know, make sure I have enough chalk in the bucket every day. But I think right now, if we can build a bigger network and provide a better opportunity for more people to see what's available, and maybe get more people to each division within the games, and broaden the population competing, that again just gives you more awareness of more disabilities that are out there, and gives, you know, the 9-year-old watching on TV with their mom who's a CrossFitter to say like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, you know, I could do that too. Or somebody that's in a wheelchair can do this. And just, you know, let's build this thing up. And I think in time we'll see that momentum shift pay off. You know, literally, I think we'll see dollars in a few years. Hopefully, I'd like to believe it. So, you know, just to be a part of it now and be a part of that momentum shift is an honor in itself. So hopefully we can just keep going on the right pace.
I see both sides of the sponsorship and opportunity and visibility in the Masters area. On one hand, as a business owner, Boulder Athlete is my company. We do Masters training programs, right? So we have been in talks with we're looking at Legends and looking how we can be a sponsor this year, be involved this year. And I just got off of meeting with my co-founders this morning, and we're thinking, man, I think it's going to get more expensive next year for the Legends Championship with CrossFit Cobra. Like, oh, we're gonna have to save some dollars, because I think the opportunity is going to be bigger next year. So from a business standpoint, it'll be a larger investment to sponsor that, which is kind of cool, challenging and cool. It'll be at the same time as a business easier to sponsor these competitions, because the budget for sponsorship is not quite as demanding as the big show, right? You know, I work closely with Ice Barrel, and I discovered how much it cost them to be a major sponsor at the games last year and to have a booth, and what their investment was. And I was like, bro, that's insane. Oh my God.
It's staggering.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm like, well, we're never doing that. We're not doing that. That's way. But then when we deal with a smaller pond or a smaller, you know, a different venue that's not that big, well, like there's new opportunities for brands to jump in and contribute to supporting these competitions. So I think that creates a lot of opportunities for brands to do that. And then on the other hand, again, it's back to us, our job as consumers, to support those brands that support us, to spend money on the things that we see there. There's that. Thirdly, and as an athlete, you know, it's always been great to go to the games and win and be like, oh, hey, I get some money on this too. Like it was always like an afterthought, like, oh man, I just earned $10,000 this weekend. That's awesome. That's crazy. I would do this why can't I do this every weekend? That'd be great. That'd be fine. I'm just, my hourly rate when I'm is great on the competition floor. But so will we see that as moving forward? And of course, fingers crossed. We hope so. We hope that those can transfer over and those payouts can transfer over. Again, it's going to depend on sponsors, CrossFit as well. You know, I'm not sure how the prize pools all got divvied up and where that money came from historically. I don't know if it's been 100% transparent. Maybe it was, but we want to see that. And if it's their year one, that's amazing. But then it's on us again as the community to support our athletes. Like, so for me, the Masters athletes, how do we get so many people involved, watching, competing, get those dollars flowing in there, again, to encourage sponsors to help bankroll all of that. I mean, it's just that chicken and egg thing. So we're just Now it's on us. Like, let's prove that it's worth investing in Masters. And I will say that, like almost half my income now is from sponsors, which is amazing. And this is, you could be a Masters athlete and have an actual income in this sport because of the sport, which is a pretty unique thing and really, really cool. And grateful for the sponsors that have invested and took the chance over the past couple of years to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that's interesting too is you're talking about the size of the potential investment for sponsors too. I think that introduces some potential brands that are more geared towards Masters, obviously Boulder Athlete being one of them, or being more geared towards adaptive training, where maybe in the past, the sticker shock of being at the games, because you're including, individuals and teams and all of that may have been too much. Right. And so now maybe Wheelwad probably has their own lineup of sponsors and people that are more adaptive focused, or, Legends has some companies or brands that are going to be more Masters focused, and they don't have to worry about getting priced out of their own demographic.
Right. And it's a niche. I mean, there's nothing better when you're trying to market something than to be able to target your niche specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without knowing what the season structure is going to be like yet, I'm curious what both of you would prefer. Do you think that it's better for your division to have your games before the elites, where then broadcast can use footage and interviews from that to help promote at the elite competition, or the individual competition rather? Or is it more beneficial to have your CrossFit Games after, where then some of those individual athletes can come to the event, have activations, and potentially more spectators?
Oof. That's a good one.
Yeah,
that is a good one.
I was fully gunshot on your first option at first, because I'm like, no one's gonna want to tune in after Elite. But when you put it that way, I'm just kind of like, well,
I was in that corner too before I heard the arguments of I was like,
it's a hard one.
Lead up to the games, and then I heard some arguments on Death by from Matt O'Keefe and Justin Collar. I was like, okay, you guys actually make a pretty compelling case.
And the promotion thing about like competition is only a year one problem, right? Because you can always roll back the previous year, which I guess you could technically do from Madison footage and stuff like that. And maybe if you do some thoughtful video capture in the months leading up, you could still do that. But that's.
Well, and I do think go first on this one.
I think in a perfect world, in the absolute perfect world, there's a build up to the individual and team CrossFit Games. I think that's where we would all say that's possibly the best case scenario, because you'll have just that semifinals building into the age group adaptive events, and then the CrossFit Games, and wow, our season wraps up. Like that's cool. That'd be a nice tight package. But there's a lot of logistics I think you've got to deal with there, like to actually get these 3 competitions, adaptive, teens, Masters, to have that all happen before August when the games are. And again, year one, we only know the dates of the games. We don't know any of these others yet. So I don't know if logistically, I'm not sure if any of that is even nailed down on actual timelines yet. So we won't know. In a perfect world, the buildup is great, but I definitely can see that if we don't have that, and if they can't have those events prior to the big show, okay, I like that second option, that there can be the individuals coming over, that there can be, and tune in next week for this continuation. We get the afterburn effect, in a good way. So I also see that over the next 5 years, this landscape will continue to change, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll see the games maybe even going international or something like that. So, I'm open to whatever kind of happens there, and grateful for whenever we get to compete. But
what if you had to pick, Jason?
I want to go before. I want to compete in. If the games are in August, I want to compete in July. If I had that option, that's better. I definitely don't want our games to be like in December, to be like 4 months later. I would really it's got to be close and consolidated, because that's just when the buildup and the bubble is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Tom.
All right. No, I would resonate those thoughts. I think if we could go before, it's most ideal. You know, it takes me back to our 5-week open years when it was like you were dreading week 5.
Yeah.
And so it's fun for the first couple of weeks. And well, if we put our elite athletes at the very end in our week 5 situation, more people are more prone to stay involved and enjoy it all the way through. So I think that in itself, and realistically, you look at the games being in mid-August again, adaptive athletes don't have a quarterfinal lineup. Could we do semifinals earlier after the open? Probably. Would we have more time then to have the games for the adaptives before the elite individuals? Absolutely. That would make most sense, right? It always can be a very long year. Like for instance, we had our semifinals back in June for the Wheelwad games coming up in December. Like June to December, I got a whole boat full of training cycles before I even get there, right? And it helps kind of streamline the season down. And then, you know, I'm not in a position, and adaptive athletes aren't looking at it like, okay, well, I just got done with the games, but oh my God, I have Wadapalooza in a month. And then, oh gosh, here comes the open in a month. Like there is no downtime then, right? There is no real off season. So if we can move it earlier into the calendar year, there's a little bit more downtime in late August, early September. That would be awesome. So that would be the realistic idea. But again, if it happens that we end up going after the elite individuals still, can we make it closer? Can we move December to mid-September, you know, at the latest? And can we see some of those athletes come out and, you know, be there and spectate or commentate even, you know, just to be there and give some live commentary on their personal reactions to what they're seeing. You know, I think that's a huge educational opportunity for that adaptive role, especially is saying like, oh, you know, Tia's there, or, you know, Justin's there being like, yeah, you know, I had a chance to be the wheelman for seated athletes at Wadapalooza, but, you know, now I'm here again and I'm seeing how these athletes are doing, you know, flawless ring muscle ups, and they're picking up sandbags off the floor and throwing them over their chairs, or, you know, they're running a 5K on one leg. I mean, it's all there. It's possible. And I think that would just help grow because we had the influence for them. So, yeah, ideally it's before, but I think we'd figure out afterwards too.
Yeah, I think it all just depends on what the promotion looks like. You know, if you're going to do it, if everything's happening afterwards, like what's that promotion look like at the games? Yeah. Because there's still ways to do it. Like you can still bring masters and adaptive athletes to Fort Worth to help promote their championships, and then you have them the following weeks. And then, you know, if you're doing them all before, well, then you have an opportunity to tell cool competitive stories at the games in front of a big audience. So I think it just depends on how you thread that needle.
The one question I had too is importance, because we still have some details to be ironed out, the importance of location of the event, because I think a lot of times you hear the label that like the adaptives and age groups are going to be, they're like a friends and family spectator crowd, right? So if that's the case, or if at least that's going to be the basis to start, does that put a higher priority on going to a place or having your championship in a place that is easy to get to and has, you know, attractions and things like that for those types of fans, you know, if they're going to spend their weekend or their week there supporting?
Absolutely. I think so. I mean, you'd hope that CrossFit would back and sponsor these competitions to be holding the same level of excitement and intensity that we saw in Fort Worth. Right now we're fortunate in, you know, though our games are in December for Wheelwad, you know, they're out in Raleigh, North Carolina, which a little chilly in the mornings, but we're mid 60s, low 70s by midday. And it's been just fine. As a Wisconsinite, like that's awesome. I love it in December, especially. So I'm not complaining, but, you know, I think if you're coming from California and you're coming from Seattle, that's a hike, right? Could we move somewhere maybe more central in the States? Maybe it is, you know, maybe we end up finding that Fort Worth is a hub and it's just week after week we're down there and offering that opportunity. That would be amazing to see, right? But then again, maybe a new location brings more CrossFitters around, right? You know, I don't want to go to Fort Worth 3 times in a row and take the same flight, you know, every 2 weeks. I'd love to go to, you know, hey, bring the adaptive games back to Madison. Let's do it. Let's throw it back. We know it works over there, right? So, I think location will be essential, but I think we can hope and optimistically, you know, look out to seeing CrossFit taking care of all of our divisions in a way that keeps the intensity and the promotion at a high level for everyone.
Well, and I'll second that. I think definitely any place that's easy to get to is going to be much more helpful. Madison, honestly, was a hard place to get people to come to, except for diehard fans. So, you know, I never flew there. I always drove, and it was always 18 hours from wherever I was at is what it was taking me to get there. But for Masters, especially because we have families. So if we could find those places that are sunny, and then maybe spend a week after the competition with family and friends, on a vacationing. I think that's a strong consideration, particularly for our demographic. Let's go out there. Let's watch these guys, and then I don't know, spend a week by the pool or by the ocean, or just not in I can think of a lot of places I don't want it to be, but I'm not going to list. I don't want to offend anyone.
That's the list we want, Jason.
Right? Here's an idea. The ranch.
Oh,
I mean, that'd be insane.
Boy.
That'd be cool.
Easy to get to. Fly into San Francisco or San Jose. Great weather stuff. I mean, I'm just saying.
Can I vouch?
Yeah.
Can I vouch for the seeded division that trail run might get a little difficult?
Yeah, that's
just
a good
little
point.
bit. Just a little bit.
Just throwing it out there. Like that would be kind of cool.
They'll need to patch up the road a little bit too.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that would be
that's
amazing.
A really good point. Yeah.
We've got the RV. We could just set up shop at the ranch. They
right?
can.
Yeah.
It's fine. Anyone can sleep here.
Cool.
Yeah. So, well, what as we kind of come to the end of this, but what are the most important questions that you need answered next? I mean, maybe we have already covered that, but there's still a lot more things to come. But if you had to sort of give me your hierarchy of I
Your
need
podium.
this, and this.
Yeah, I like that.
What would that be?
Man, I still feel very in a digestive state right now. Like the only question that comes to my head is what can I expect? Right. Sure. I know it's a very vanilla and very broad question, but there's still so much to figure out, I think we're going to hear a lot from WheelWOD, specifically more than we will from CrossFit. I think, I know how excited WheelWOD is about taking on this endeavor and having the opportunity to really shine the way that we've always seen them within the adaptive community. I think the biggest thing I would say is, are we going to see a larger CrossFit presence at lower level sanctional events, right? We have a lot of events throughout the WheelWOD season. We head to Australia, we've head to Mexico, we've been all over the States. There's a lot of really cool opportunities, even international, the WODsalona event out in Barcelona. Yeah. Can we see a CrossFit presence at those, right? Is there a way that we can help the lead up? So when the games, if they inevitably fall after the elite divisions, can we have these lead up events that help start promoting and exciting and drawing interest into the adaptive scenes to say oh, hey, that's a name I want to watch in a couple months when they're, at, the ranch throwing down at the adaptive CrossFit Games, right? So, that's a tough question other than what level of support can we expect right now? I think that's the biggest thing, because I know and have been through the ringer with the WheelWOD, and I know that on their own, they've done fantastic, with the resources that they have and the manpower behind it. They have done and put on tremendous events that have only grown year after year. Every year is better than the last, programming to venues, to amount of spectators, to everything involved. It's been great. So you hope that with CrossFit branding things now and hopefully being a larger presence as a support tool rather than as the avenue of success, I think we're going to see a lot more opportunity grow. So what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
Yeah. My podium for that question is, what's it going to be called? Where's it at? When is it at? And boom, those are just the things we need to know. And those may not be known yet, but those would be just the big three. And I will acknowledge that, I had as we're wrapping up, I had a shift in some of my internal feelings about this after talking with, Bob Jennings behind the.
He's such a great guy, man. I'm such a
great guy.
Yeah.
And, he reached out to me after the announcement. He saw my questions on the CrossFit Games post. He's like, hey, listen, let's talk about this really quick. And so I can't share everything he said, but after having talked to him, we're in good hands. And I think that's what I think all of us could say about the partners that CrossFit chose for this. We're in good hands. Good people know how to get this done. And it made me much, much more optimistic about the future. Just spending 10 minutes on the phone with Bob, being reassured, this is going to be good. It's going to be good. And I can't wait for more information to be released out there. But those big three, what, where, when, sign me up because I'm coming. Yeah. So
Wex actually a good friend. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I'll vouch even for the teens athletes. I've friends in the community in the CrossFit world. I've talked to them who have teens teen games athletes and stuff, and they've just said they've always loved the pit. They've loved going there. They love that competition. So I think it's, again, a trifold that everyone's feeling like the people that are in charge of their relative competition are the right people for it, and they're going to do it well. And now we just have extra support and resources, which can only make it better.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Wex has a really good question. Our good friend Wex from the Wex Peel podcast. Do you feel like Wheelwad taking the lead will open up more divisions and more consistent standards for fair play?
Oh yeah, totally. I don't think there was ever an intent for there not to be more divisions or more fair play. I think the issue came in that there was a small group of individuals within the CrossFit brand trying to run the adaptive division with a whole bunch of people that didn't have the same background of knowledge. And that was just too hard for us to try and meld together. And then you look at the competition that was already unfolding within the games, and, being on the broadcast team and having the background, seeing the behind the scenes and everything, there is not a minute to spare in their schedule. There is so much happening, volunteers and just setup and everything that goes into it, all barring that there's no weather delays or that there's nothing that goes wrong again. Trying to think about adding more divisions to that never seemed like a reality until maybe this past season when we had the games or the adaptives and age group go from Tuesday to Thursday. Right. And I thought in my mind, that was the guinea pig of it all, to say like, hey, would it work if we had these divisions go before elite and team, open up the field a little bit more, make some more accessibility? But then again, if you look at that from a seated standpoint, they're not going to probably have the manpower or the time in the schedule to move the huge, ginormous rope mats underneath in the Zeus arena, right? So, wheeled athletes aren't going to probably get out there and do rope climbs. And then what am I looking at as far as testing my level of fitness, right? I'm getting adapted versions just to make it work in the schedule. So I think this alone, knowing that we already have 15 concrete established divisions within wheelwad, is just going to say that, yes, there is an opportunity for you. Yes, you're going to have a classification, whether it impairs you every single movement that you do or not. And it's just a matter of people now getting used to this and just digesting this, because there's a lot of individuals that have only done the CrossFit brand of adaptive divisions. They haven't seen the wheelwad side yet. And I think anybody that's going through that transition is going to be vastly amazed by the opportunity and the promise that this brings. Because not that it wasn't ever that way in CrossFit, but wheelwad from the get-go has always been like, oh, you can't move as well as everybody else? We got you. We're going to take care of you, and we're going to make it work for you. So no, this will be very consistent because there's been years of practice with every division that you could think of right now. And it's been tested. It's been proven to work. Like I said, our games, wheelwad games, have been fantastic from year after year. And it's only going to get better now with extra resources on our side. Yeah.
Well, guys, listen, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate the perspective. Enjoy talking to you. And I think I just think there's a lot of positive here. There's like a lot of, this is, I think, a win. There's a lot more good than bad here. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this looks like moving forward. And it's going to be fun next year, I think.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
All right. Bring it to the
more
range.
CrossFit.
Yeah.
More
exactly.
CrossFit.
That's always good. More
CrossFit.
championship CrossFit.
That's
not
right.
just, but more championship CrossFit. I think it's a really good thing. But hey, best of luck this coming season, guys. And I'm hoping that we'll be seeing and talking to you again both very soon. So Jason Grubb, Tom Miazga, thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks to our sponsor, Airwaav. Head to airwaav.com. TEF15 is the code you can use to save 15%. Again, great stocking stuffers. Take care of it now. That's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. And thanks again to Tom Miazga and Jason Grubb for stopping by. For Tommy, I almost called you Tom.
You almost called me Tom.
Oh, Tommy Marquez. We had that whole debate before the show. For Tommy Marquez, Lauren Khalil, Jason Grubb, and Tom Miazga, I'm Sean Woodland. Take care of each other, be better, and we'll talk to you guys next time.